When Andre Drummond signed with the Cleveland Cavaliers a year ago, fans were overjoyed. At 27, Drummond has made himself into a powerhouse in the NBA, a two-time NBA All-Star player. He's also made it into the All-NBA third team, coupled with being rebounding leader in the NBA for 4 times. This is a feat not so many NBA players can boast of. Interestingly, Drummond was expected to do very well with the Cleveland Cavaliers. However, as if from a bad dream, Drummond and the Cavs have suddenly fallen out. Why and how did this happen? What exactly went wrong? Let's find out in this video together. Welcome back to Courtside, where you get all the buzzing NBA news, analysis, and information. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you haven't, and also share this video with your friends. Drummond joined the Cavs from the Detroit Pistons in 2020. The Pistons wanted to build towards the future, hence deciding to trade Andre to the Cavaliers. The trade in return offered the Detroit Pistons Brandon Knight, John Henson, plus a 2023 second-round draft pick. In fact, this trade came as a shock to many, considering the fact that the owner, Tom Gores, had told reporters in the past that keeping the player was one of the priorities of the team. He added that he understood the dedication that existed among the players, especially Drummond. The owner further added that the player is extremely underrated despite his skills and what he does for whatever team he plays for. Coupled with this, the coach added that Drummond is a perfect team player who has grown tremendously since he was 18. It of course, came as a surprise to find out that the team had finally traded Drummond for other players. At the time of his trade, reporters and analysts worried that the owner of the Pistons was not going to sign off on the trade, since he had mentioned that keeping the player was a major priority. Also, the year marked the last guaranteed year in Drummond's career, and this included a $28.8 million player option for 2020-21. In an interview with a reporter, the player stated that after his first season with the Cavs, he would be testing the free agency waters. Before Drummond left the Pistons, the team was in an unfavorable table position. Their 19-34 ranks sat at the 10th position in the Eastern Conference rankings. It should also be noted that at the time, Blake Griffin, who now plays for the Brooklyn Nets, had consistent knee issues which kept him out of the court continuously, and trading Drummond was the only way the team would be able to secure future assets. As if the team already knew, Griffin left for the Nets this year in a trade deal. At the end of the day, even though the deal was quite strange and unexpected, it happened for a justifiable reason, which was the lack of an opportunity cost and the urgent need for future assets. At the time of his trade, Drummond was one of the best rebounders in the league, and still is. It's also necessary to add that the deal with the Cavs gave them the sign and trade rights if Drummond decided to want to leave, and that exactly is what's happening. Now, everyone thought that if the Cavs needed to trade Drummond for one reason or the other, perhaps for not fitting in with the younger players, it would be an entirely easy process. However, it happened that there was a major falling out between the player and the team, which caused the Cavs to start searching for a potential trade deal for Drummond in the just concluded NBA trade. As the deadline of March 25th inched closer and closer, the Cavs were unable to find a suitable trade deal for the rebound expert. This then caused the team to negotiate a buyout for Drummond, which would make him a free agent and put his future in his own hands. This desperation to let Drummond go is quite suspicious. What exactly happened between them? This makes it hard to remember that in the 25 games he played for the Cavs, the player was averaging 17.5 points per game, while also averaging a rebound of 13.5 per game. In all these 25 games, the Cavs were 9-16. When the Cavs brought the 7-foot Jarrett Allen to the team, they were 7-7. Immediately Allen arrived, there was an immediate underlying message for Drummond. The message was this: the team had a future center and the player in question isn't Drummond. Drummond knew this. He didn't need anyone else to tell him that the addition of the 22-year-old to the team was going to affect him directly. Allen is a fantastic choice for the Cavs. He hardly plays a selfish game, he enjoys rebounding, and he's able to block shots, which means that he hardly takes a poor shot. Additionally, Allen is a restricted free agent, and it is expected that in the long run, he would be going home with a deal in the $100 million range. Currently, he averages 14.7 points, 11.2 rebounds, and shoots .645 from the field. Honestly, Drummond is doing better than this in the court of play, but he is 27 and probably nearing the end of his career. Allen, on the other hand, is 22 and will most probably improve in the coming seasons. As regards to the Cavs, it's safe to say that they didn't have the slightest idea in 2020 that they would be trading for Allen the next year. In fact, nobody could have seen it coming. Also, they didn't know what a pandemic was going to grip the world and shut down the NBA for several weeks. This is perhaps one of the reasons why Drummond didn't entirely reach his full potential with the team last year. Before Allen arrived, Drummond was content with being the first choice and also content with putting up big numbers for the team. He must have thought that when the time comes, which would be at the end of the season, he would become a free agent. But with the arrival of Allen, Drummond knows that his playing time will be drastically affected, and this will cause him to no longer be the center of attention. This informed his decision to further push for a trade to the Lakers. To make matters even worse, there are indications that Allen will sign with the Cavs beyond this season. It is necessary that we should also mention that Andre Drummond was the subject of a controversial statement in February. Right after the Cavs announced that they didn't want to play Drummond this season, an NBA scout came forward to suggest that the player was in fact an inefficient player, further suggesting that he wouldn't be missed on the court. Even though a number of reporters and scouts refuted this statement, there's a chance that it had a sort of effect on his trade value. Even though he's managed an incredible career of impressive rebounds and great offensive games, he hasn't led any team to a strong playoff run. Perhaps this explains why the scout made a statement of that nature. There's a tradition among big names in the NBA which has become quite famous in the last few years. So if it happens that a big name thinks he's no longer compatible for a team, for whatever reason, especially if this happens close to the trading deadline, this big name player will sit out. This means that he would not play any games, yet he would be paid as if he had been playing. Most times the club ends up trading these players at the end of the season or buys them out of their contract. Players like Blake Griffin, who recently moved to the Brooklyn Nets, took this path. LaMarcus Aldridge did the same, and many expected Drummond to do the same. Aldridge just signed a deal with the Brooklyn Nets after reaching a buyout agreement with the Spurs. Aldridge was, just like Drummond, a hot item in the market. However, unfortunately for Drummond, he was unable to find any team willing to pay for him. Coupled with that, Drummond was also considered expensive by almost all the teams the Cavs spoke with. His contract is worth over $28.7 million this season. On the other hand, the change in dynamism of the NBA has affected Drummond and the Cavs. Centers are not as revered as they used to be. Now more teams want the big men to shoot outside. In fact, some teams don't even want to have big players, especially if their contract is taking a large chunk of their total budget. You would even remember that the Cavs didn't have to give up so much to acquire Drummond in the first place. And this is also why they couldn't get a very good deal for him during the trade period. Drummond had been a gamble right from the start, but the Cavs didn't see it. And even if they did, it is a gamble that didn't pay off. Drummond did the same, but the only difference is that he hasn't found a team yet. He played for the team last in February and has been told to sit out the rest of the season. On the 15th of February, head coach of the Cavs, J.B. Bickerstaff, said, per the Associated Press, "Sometimes you're forced into difficult positions that's not easy to navigate. But in respect to Dre and all that he's done and accomplished, and as much as he's helped us, we thought this was the fairest thing to do for him." It appears like Andre Drummond is set to join the defending champions Los Angeles Lakers. Finally, after so many back and forths, Andre was bought out by the Cavaliers on Friday, a deal which must have cost them heavily. This immediately sparked a frenzy for the signature of the 27-year-old, considering he is a restricted free agent now. Teams like the Clippers, Knicks, Celtics, and Hornets are interested in his signature. But according to an ESPN report, the player might be heading to the LA Lakers, where it is believed he would immediately join the starting lineup. We can all agree that Drummond is not a great shooter, but he is surely the best choice for so many teams, including the LA Lakers. He's one of the best centers in the league, and this is going to come in handy for the Lakers. Of course, he would be an incredible addition, especially with the absence of LeBron James. So what are your thoughts on Andre Drummond and his recent buyout and subsequent move? Tell us about it in the comments section. We are Courtside.